News confirming that 2 American B-2 bombers, like the ones shown here, were sent on a round-trip training mission from its base in Missouri to an island off South Korea and carried out a training run on a bombing range off the coast there. The news comes only days after North Korea threatened to launch a nuclear strike against the U.S. and South Korea, the regime cutting off communications, saying that war could break out, quote, at any moment. Dan Senor is co-founder of the Foreign Policy Initiative, who previously served as a Pentagon and White House advisor. Dan, welcome back to America.
Good to be with you, Bill.
Good morning to you. What are we to make of all the moving parts on this story now?
Well, you have obviously a new leader in North Korea who's being even more provocative than his predecessor. I think a general sense that the U.S. posture to the region has been weaker, and capitalizing on that. I think we should be concerned. The North Korean regime has said in the past, has communicated that it believes its buildup of its nuclear capabilities, as well as building up its conventional capabilities to pose a real threat to South Korea, has always been indispensable, if you will, to its survival. And I think you're seeing a lot of that play out. There's this town, this joint industrial park in a town right on the border between North and South Korea, where it's one of the few places, if not the only place, where you have North Korean workers and South Korean workers working day in, day out. And there's been access in the past for the South to get to that town. That's being shut down. So the North is really getting into a sort of fortress mentality where it's shutting off all access points, even ones that have purely had a symbolic
now, we are told to the headlines anyway that the North has a problem with the increased sanctions against its country. But you're making the case that the U.S. has not been as strong as it had been, say, what, 7 or 8 years ago?
Yeah, there were tougher sanctions in place. 2005, 2006, they were scaled back dramatically as an effort under the State Department to try to restart the six-party talks. And so the really tough sanctions were pulled back. Now, there are some sanctions in place by the UN that have had moderate impact, but not the sort of severe impact that we'd hoped they'd have. The other thing that's important here, Bill, is we need to use these moments to really build up cooperation, military training, logistical cooperation between the United States, between South Korea, and between Japan. Most of our military logistics, a lot of our military logistics for South Korea goes through Japan.
Are we not doing that, Dan?
We're doing some of it. We need to do more, much more, and really strengthen the alliance in Asia to sort of really isolate North Korea here. And then there's a lot we could be doing with regard to China. I mean, China, at the end of the day, has enormous leverage over North Korea, and we need to ask real questions about whether or not China is doing all it can to really help suffocate.
I think these are all fair points, Dan. I think we've argued them over the past several years again and again and again. Now, with regard to these interceptors, we just showed an animation. The Obama administration has changed course. They're going to move more interceptors to the western coast of the United States. But they will not be in place until what, 2017?
Yeah, there were 30 interceptors. There was going to be increased to 41 in early 2009. The Pentagon announced that those interceptors, the expansion of the interceptors, would be cut. They've now recently announced that they will reactivate them. They will set them up. But your point is a fair one. It's going to take some time, and given the increasingly bellicose rhetoric coming out of North Korea's new leader, combined with some of these actions they're taking, it's worrisome that these interceptors won't be up sooner. Again, I think there are a lot of steps we can take to isolate the regime and do more to try to suffocate the regime, particularly working closely with our allies in the region. But this announcement of the new interceptors, it's important that it was announced. It's important that we're reactivating them. We should have done them sooner for the precise reason you say, in terms of just the time delay.
Just one more point on this, and it's a big point, but I want to put a fine point on it. You know, when you read headlines like these, and if one side makes a mistake, who knows what happens after that? Do you think we're at that point, the possibility of war started by North Korea?
I don't want to overstate things or be inflammatory. I do not believe we are on the cusp of war. What I do think, however, Bill, is in this kind of situation when tensions get hot and there's a breakdown in communication, which it seems to be, there's at least based on the public source information, it appears to be some kind of breakdown in communication and assertively being pursued, an assertive breakdown in communication by the North. we should be worried. We should be concerned that, you know, mistakes can happen and provocations and combined with miscommunication can lead to a real escalation. I don't want to say that we're on the cusp of war, but I can say that miscommunications can occur that could, you know, trigger dangerous situations.
And I think you know all too well, too, when the United States tells the world that B-2 bombers have flown on a training mission halfway around the world, it is significant. Dan,
Absolutely.
thank you.
Good
Thanks
to be
for coming in. We'll see you again soon, okay?
Great.
Dan Senor here with us in New York.